That's James's dinner. I'm drinking Valerian Dream, and I'm going to review Notorious, True History of Kelly, whatever, Sleeping Dogs, and Faith-Based. And James is going to continue to talk about this book.
On faith-based, I think.
Yeah. So, we'll see how that goes. Now, I had a hard time deciding which should be the top of the stack because honestly, I didn't like any of these, which is surprising because, I mean, this one's an Alfred Hitchcock movie. I think I saw it before, but honestly, it's really boring, and I can't remember.
It's a thriller, not so much a horror thing.
Yeah, it's not horror. It's Alfred Hitchcock. And it's black and white, starring Ingrid Bergman and Cary Grant. And I don't know if it was put out in 1946.
Oh, damn it.
I don't know if anybody in the movie was really a great actor. Maybe that was part of the problem. But it really dragged, as far as I was concerned.
So you figure Ingrid Bergman was there just because of the I thought
she's really beautiful.
I was shocked. She looks like she's had plastic surgery. I doubt if she had to.
No, yeah, but
she looked
honestly, I had a roommate in college who she was Swiss, and she looked more beautiful, but quite a bit like Ingrid Bergman, tall and just stunning.
Was Ingrid Bergman tall?
Yeah, well, I think so. She seemed to be.
I mean, never know.
You never know. Right? Anyway, yeah, I didn't care for this movie that much. As far as Alfred Hitchcock movies go, if you haven't seen Rear Window, well, you have to, because it's the best. And then Vertigo's great, and honestly, there's a whole bunch ahead of this one. So basically go through all of them before you get to that one. True History of the Kelly Gang. So this one had Russell Crowe in it.
Oh, is that like in Australia then?
Yes. And they actually did a pretty good job.
Mick Jagger actually played in an earlier version of that movie.
Oh, really?
Back in, well, I think it is Ned Kelly, I think that was the name of the character.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's the guy.
There we go. So he wore armor and stuff like that. So yeah, Mick Jagger back in, I think he was playing it in '69 or something like that, right after Brian Jones died.
All I can say is this one is 125 minutes long, and I'm not really into the whole Western thing. There were some pretty graphic scenes in this.
It's
Still,
Australian
if you're
Western.
into that. If you're into that, and if you're into westerns, you're into graphic kind of scenes, and then whatever, they actually did a great job with it. As far as, see, I had a hard time rating this because it's not the kind of movie that I would like, but some people might, and
Russell Crowe's Australian.
Yeah, he did a good job in this.
Oh, yeah, he's a good actor, unlike Mel Gibson.
So.
And but I don't know what it is about Australia. It produces some creepy people. I guess it produced some wimpy guys like the Bee Gees.
I guess it has kind of a rough history or whatever. I don't know. It could be that, but
the Bee Gees are a counterexample. AC/DC is more like. Kind of idiots I'm talking about.
But I have been liking Australian movies lately, quite a lot. Whereas I didn't for a long time. I was like, oh, Australian, it's a kiss of death, you know. But no, now it's, you see, it's made in Australia. You're like, all right, let's see what they're doing. I don't know. Things change. So, another movie with Russell Crowe. And I had a hard time placing this one because I actually enjoyed watching it okay. It's a crime thriller,
Oh,
and it's an interesting idea for a movie. I just was disappointed. I didn't think it really worked out that well. So I'm going to give a spoiler alert because I'm going to talk about this. So it's about a guy who has Alzheimer's, and he's undergoing an experimental treatment. I really liked the way they had, he had little tape notes all over the house so that he would, you know, your name is such, because he wouldn't know, right? But he's undergoing this experimental treatment where he's taking this medication, and he's gotten some sort of brain, like implants in his brain to stimulate the making of new pathways and stuff like that, and you know, things fire. So this is a fiction thing, so if you have somebody, a loved one with Alzheimer's, don't get all excited right now. But anyway, so here he is. He's an ex-detective, and somebody contacts him and says, there's this person on death row who wants to speak with you, and they will only speak with you. And so he decides, well, what can I do? I have Alzheimer's, you know, and whatever. But he decides, okay, well, I'll go. So he goes and talks to the guy, and it turns out that it was a case he had worked on before he had Alzheimer's. And so this guy's saying, I didn't kill this person, but I was charged with it, and you know, you have to help me because you're partly responsible for this, right? And anyway, so it's going really good, and I'm like, yeah, where's this going? So he's starting to remember some things, but so it looks like the treatment is working. And but he's running into all these people, and there's good actors. I mean, Russell Crowe's great, and it has that one woman that I love, my favorite sidekick from the new Doctor Who series. So she was just wonderful. The redhead one. Anyway, so she's in this. I don't know what her name is, but anyway, so you have some good actors, and the story seems to be going well. And then at the end, it just doesn't work. You have this scene where the one guy is, he was talking about how one guy had taken medication. It was some sort of medication that would help him forget, because he had been in the war, and he'd seen some horrible things, and so he wanted to. So just the opposite, right? He wanted to forget, so he was taking a pill to forget. And this guy's taking one to remember. And so that's going well. And then he says, oh, you know, the side effects were so bad I had to stop taking it. So I just had to decide, well, I'm going to have to live with this, right? And so right then, when you're introduced to that, you're thinking, well, did he really have Alzheimer's, or is he taking a medication to forget? And seeing as this one of the main characters, and actually the one, the victim, and one of the potential killers, were working on this same sort of thing, the brain treatment, whatever, then you're thinking, okay, wait a minute. Could it be that he's actually being treated so that he's forgotten, rather than, so you're actually still, you're like, this is going somewhere. And that's why it went so far down in the stack, I think, is because it really seemed to be going somewhere. And then all of a sudden you get to the end, and the one guy, or near the end, the guy who was taking the pill to forget, he tries to run down the Russell Crowe's character with a vehicle, so he tries to kill him, and then Russell Crowe ends up shooting him. So and then later on, you're thinking, why would he be killed? And then it turns out that the lovely woman that was involved with brain stuff, and the detective's ex-partner, they kill each other. You know, the detective's ex-partner was saying, I did this to protect you, and he did. I mean, Russell Crowe's character, he doesn't know what he's talking about because he has Alzheimer's. He has no idea, right? And the woman was trying to convince him of something, whatever. But then in the end, he remembers that like these people kill each other, and he's the only one left. And well, besides, he did manage to get the other guy out, right? Because those two killed each other, so whatever. So the guy who was on death row, well, he's free. So that's good. But in the end, he realizes that he was actually the one who killed the guy, and the detective, his ex-partner, was actually trying to help him. But it leaves some loose ends. Like, you're like, okay, well, if his medication is actually working, he's remembering things, and now he's stuck with something he doesn't want to remember, and he's going to have to either live with it or decide not to. Killing himself, which it looks like that's where it's leaning. But you know, that's an interesting ending. But you still have well, why did that one guy want to run him down? That makes no sense. You're left with these things that don't make any sense whatsoever. Why would the one woman involved want to try to kill them or have anything to do with them? That makes no sense. It's just, there's too many things that don't make sense because they were trying to, anyway, you get what I'm saying now. So, or at least you would if you watched the show. And I don't know, maybe you should. It's interesting up until the end, but anyway, faith-based, salvation is rich. So I thought this would be funnier than it was. It does have Jason Alexander in it.
I found him funny.
Yeah. And so I thought it would be better, but it's not. It's about some guys that decide they want to get rich making a Christian movie with
it sounds hilarious.
with 90s TV actors.
How did they manage to?
I know. I thought it was gonna. It ended up bottom of the stack.
With did you say B or C, D TV actors?
Well, 90s TV actors, right? Because they were talking about, and I've noticed it too. Like, what was his name? Oh, Kirk Cameron. I guess he does Christian movies now or whatever, and they're really popular. Because, well, Kirk Cameron was popular. Anyway.
What did he do? I've forgotten about him.
Oh, I don't know. He was one of those heartthrob sort of guys. My sister really liked Kirk Cameron. So
no,
that, I mean, that was
young.
Yeah. So he was. I couldn't tell you because he wasn't for my age group. He was my sister's, right?
I've kind of forgotten the last. I'm showing my age. The last ones that I kind of was laughing at were guys like they did something called, I don't know, it was Young Guns or something like that. Ralph Macchio, or Macchio is probably how they mispronounced his name. Emilio Estevez. When he was young, what was his name? Patrick Swayze played this somewhat older guy in it. And I think it was a Francis Ford Coppola offering. A young Tom Cruise without his front teeth fixed. I think he got him smashed up in hockey. Still looking handsome. Matt, no, there was a guy called Dillon or something. Matt Dillon? What was his name? Something like that. Definitely not Matt, whatever, Damon. Before his time. Rob Lowe was in that movie. I mean, there were a lot of heartthrobs in that movie. They were young. I can't remember what it's called, Young Guns or something. I don't think it sold really well, but guy had eye for either eye candy or talent. I mean, I've got to admit, Swayze wasn't the greatest actor, but apparently a really good actor. And Tom Cruise, eye candy basically. Matt Dillon or whatever his name was a pretty good actor. raw blow, well, eye candy. Um,
I'm going to show you these ingredients from this tea because if you can read it, I don't know. Can you see them there? Because it actually tastes really interesting. I don't like this Valerian Dream as much as the last one that I tried, the lavender mint one. But when I tried this in the middle of the night, like this is my second cup from this bag, and I could actually taste all the things. I was like, huh, because I thought I've tried valerian root and it does not taste good, and it's the #1 ingredient. I thought, how are they going to make this? But with the cardamom and licorice and fennel seed and all that, you can actually taste. And earlier I was like, yeah, I can taste the rose and stuff in it. So that's nice. It's nice to have some interesting sort of. I thought this kind of like art, tasting it. But anyway, so I guess you're going to talk about God Is Not Great.
yeah, I think I will. Funny thing about that movie, Coppola missed out on Emilio Estevez's
I thought you were done
young
with that,
brother,
sorry.
Martin Sheen. Well, not Martin Sheen, that's his dad. But what's his
Charlie
Sheen? Yeah, although he kind of ruined his look. I think he's a serious smoker or something.
Yes, he was very good looking.
Way better looking is the important thing. Way better looking than Emilio Estevez, but Emilio Estevez actually has some chops in his acting. The same thing with Martin Sheen. Not so much Charlie Sheen, although I swear, for a good looking guy, he was actually a fairly good comic actor. Now, where did I leave off?
I think I crunched the leaves. I don't know.
I don't think I got around to Fidel
Yeah,
Castro.
totally crunched that one. Poor guy.
Oh yeah, John Calvin. So this guy has a lot to say about Calvinism, and it isn't. I'm not going to say it's generally bad. It's all bad, but he does point out how Holland took over the Jews after they were ethnically cleansed from Spain, roughly 1492, maybe exactly 1492. And what he doesn't seem to realize, or doesn't want to realize, is Holland is one of the classic Calvinist countries. And I swear, it's really the only country that's had a long and strong history of being pro-Semitic. Not just willing to put up with Jews, but actually kind of glorying in the contribution Jews have made to not just Dutch culture, but world culture, vis-a-vis the, I think you'd call them Sephardic Jews that made it into Holland. The sad thing now is, of course, they've allowed lots and lots of people, 10% Muslim. Some people say, oh, it's only 8%. I say, wow, that's bad when you consider the fact that there are some Dutch politicians, and they're not telling Jews to get lost. They're telling Jews this to help save them. They just say, we in Holland can't protect you anymore from Muslims. Absolutely shameful. And that's when Muslims are only 10% of the population. Or less. There are lots of people. Oh, it's only 8%. I'm saying, yeah, it makes it worse. Lower percent for the same amount of staggering intolerance. They say in France, with roughly 10% Muslim population, and they've been saying this for a while, it would be probably a couple of decades, every weekend, I presume it starts with the Friday, is Kristallnacht. Parts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 52 Kristallnachts every year. Of course, the French have been, at least semi-officially, anti-Semitic since the first modern oil crisis. And that's not in 1973. There was actually one in 1967 in the wake of the, what do they call it, the 6-Day War or something like that, when the Jews took over only a small part of the area that was historically theirs, that they didn't own after 1940. I believe it was 48. They got something like independence, and France was going. Oh, there was an oil crisis. The Arab countries, in particular, tried to crush the economies of countries that up to that point in time had supported Israel. Oftentimes just a word only. France would be a classic case. And so they turned up the spigots. Back then, there was a Democratic administration in control in the United States, and they actually knew how to handle the economy, unlike the Republicans. Since even before I was a kid, the Republicans have been total stumblebums. And even before, when my dad was a kid, they were stumblebums too. Going back all the way to I believe it was 21. They were in for 12 years in a row, and towards the end of those 12 years, they managed to bring on the great stock market crash in 1929. That's thanks to Herbert Hoover and his predecessors who were bringing in policies that contributed to the whole thing. And of course, in the wake of the great stock market crash, the Great Depression. And so what they actually had something called the Democrats had something called the Strategic Oil Reserve, and they unleashed it on the world and unleashed it on these crumb bum Arabian dictatorships, and of various sorts of don't bite me, okay, ladybug. Of various sorts, right wing, left wing. There were a lot of left wing, what I call commune Nazi dictatorships in the Middle East at that point in time. Not least of which was Nasser's little nasty nationalist commie thing. Like, oh, am I making it up? No. He had a central committee, and he had a what's the other term? Just like the commies did. And a political bureau, just like the communists. So a communist kind of organization, commie kind of economics, and then ultra-violently nationalist. And of course, like almost all nationalism, anti-Semitic, brutally anti-Semitic. It's not just National Socialists that are that way. You get the commies in Russia, increasingly brutally anti-Semitic. Some of Stalin's favorite victims in the mid-30s when he did the big purges, where the Jews, Kamenev was, he was gone. His name is a Slavic name for stone, but it might have originally been Stein or something like that. Not him maybe, but his ancestors. Anyway. They just got wiped out. Trotsky, of course, was his real name was Bronstein, I believe. People mispronounce it Bronstein, but I think it's Bronstein, which means something like fountain stone or spring stone or something like that. Anyway, so yeah, Calvinists, like what I've said is. I'm saying it right now. Calvinists get short shrift with left-wingers. Why? Because Calvinists are the people that brought in modern-day capitalism. And it's true. And the sad thing is, capitalism, no one's come up with a better, more tolerant system that actually semi-works. And that's just the way it goes. The challenge to left-wingers is to actually come up with something that actually works and that actually is tolerant. The big trouble is so many people nowadays who are strutting around styling themselves as left-wingers, they've done a bait-and-switch thing and they haven't even realized it. But it goes back to at least Herbert Marcuse was saying, this is like in the 60s or earlier, we can't depend on the working class to bring us a revolution. especially the working class in developed countries. So back then they didn't use the term developed countries. That's one of these politically correct stupid things. And stupid designations. And he was saying we're going to depend on people of color. Of course, he didn't use that term back then. And stuff like that from all around the world. And we'll even use the lumpen proletariat. I don't think he even used that term, but that's what he meant. And Karl Marx, his mentor at several moves, actually said the lumpen proletariat don't make what he gave a long list of what he classed as lumpen proletariat. Of course, he would have to be included in there because he included the literati. But they were like pimps, thieves, prostitutes. Did he include artists? Probably in literati he would have meant to suggest that. But basically, what he'd see as parasites and stuff like that. And he said more than once that the lumpen lump basically means rag. So it's kind of like rag people or rag proletariat. It's not really working class. It just means lower classes. And he was saying they're always used by reactionary forces to suppress progressive forces. And he's right. And so people like who follow on Marcuse's footsteps, they're really using to crush working class movements. They don't believe. Modern day left-wingers, almost a monster, don't believe in the working class. They believe that working class should pay them. They tend to be intellectuals sitting in universities, sitting on their fat glutei maximi at universities, and expect working class people or lower middle class people to pay their very handsome wages. They're handsome like the guy who used to play Superman, who became a quadriplegic. What was his name?
Christopher Reeves.
Christopher Reeves. So that's the kind of wages they get. They're that handsome. So, how much time? 5?
A couple minutes.
Couple of minutes. So I knew I wouldn't get much past my talk about Calvinism. So this is where he starts to go off the rails. You know, I'm only in the C's here because he's saying religion, how religion poisons everything, but there's lots of other things that poison things. And actually, when we look at any place in the world that actually has a long and unfortunately not that strong a tradition, but relatively strong tradition of democracy, it has a Calvinist background. It's just that way. You know, I don't necessarily like it to be that way. It just is that way. If you argue against it, you're a fool. Okay? That's F with 3 O's in the middle and then an L. Okay? You're just a stupid fool. There are, and you know, like we'll later on talk about Stalin. He says, oh, Stalin was raised in a seminary to be a priest. Yeah, but he wasn't religious. I don't care what he was raised on. That would be like saying Christopher Hitchens died a Marxist because he was dyed in the wool Marxist for a long time. But he changed. And Stalin changed too. Okay? So he's desperately trying to make Stalin look religious. He's desperately trying to make Adolf Hitler, with a seal of approval from the Catholic Church. There's more entries under Adolf Hitler for his deal with the Catholic Church than there is about Hitler himself. So he's trying to say Hitler was religious. He does say, well, they kind of believe in the Teutonic religion. You can't have it both ways. It's Teutonic religion or the Catholic religion. But tune in next time.